Hello, my name is Susanna, and I am going to talk about having queer relationships as an adoptee.
Hello, my name is Oliver, and I'm a trans guy who make videos about LGBTQIA+ people where they get to talk about anything that they want that somehow relates to them being queer. I recently met up with Susanna, and this is how they describe themselves.
My name is Susanna, and I am 43 years old, if I have to say that. I'm pansexual, and I also identify as queer in both the meaning of the sex and the sexuality.
The labels they use for themselves have changed over time.
When I came out as 17, I was bisexual. That's what I said to my friends. Then 2006, I read gender studies in the university here in Göteborg, and then I learned about queer theory. So then I found out that I'm non-binary, so that's what I call myself. Or as 26, I found out I just want to be called a person and nothing else than that, just person, just me. When I was at that age, 26, then I found it very nice to have a word for it, because I always felt I didn't really see myself as a girly girl or do stuff like girls usually maybe do. I don't know. Girls can do anything, but so that was nice. I don't right now care so much about the fact that I'm non-binary. Otherwise, if people ask about my pronoun, usually I say she or they, but I don't mind so much because that's mostly for myself.
The focus in this video is something that has affected everything in Susanna's life, the fact that they're adopted.
And I'm also adopted from Sri Lanka, so I'm a transracial adoptee. That's had quite an impact in my life, because maybe if I start from the beginning, well, I have had difficulties having relationships because I'm very afraid in relationships and I get a lot of anxiety.
And this can be traced back to the separation from their first parents.
Not only for me, but for all children that cut off the bond from the first parents, it creates a very powerful bodily experience, because the body gives out a lot of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, and also reduces the oxytocin in the body, and it affects the body until you get safe again, because your safety is disrupted. So maybe it mends a little bit if you get new parents that know how to mend that trauma, because it's a trauma to the body. That's why I have difficulties in other relationships. So when I was about 35, I had some good relationships and also some bad. And the last relationships, I felt a lot of anxiety all the time in the relationship, to the point that I thought I stopped having relationships. So I didn't have it for almost 10 years. And then I worked a lot on my emotional self and psychologically. And I also put more effort to my son, because he was in his teens then. So I wanted to put the energy on him. And also I tried to self-heal with the self-help books and stuff like that. And I also went to therapy a little bit. And in 2018 I found the account, the holistic psychologist, which is very good. And I also have the book. So I've worked a lot with the psychological bits, but also the somatic bits for several years now. I do yoga every day and also breathing exercises, breath work. And that I found out that's very calming for the body. So it helped me a lot to not have these stress responses or trauma responses all the time.
And all this work helped them when they started having relationships again.
I didn't have so much trouble to put boundaries, and I knew my needs better, what I don't want, and when something feels wrong. Before, I had trouble knowing if something felt wrong. I also started to do something I thought about since I was 26, and that was to have not monogamous relationship but polyamory. Now I started that, and that feels very different and much better. It feels like I can have the relationship I want to have, and you can have more dialogue with the partners, see what kind of relationship they want to, and then you talk about it. A lot of communication from the beginning. I thought it would be harder for me because of the attachment I have is not the safe one. I have another one, the avoiding one, but now I'm moving towards the safe one. But since I have the avoiding one, I thought it might be much more hard for me to have the poly relationship. But at the contrary, I found out it's easier. I don't know why, but I think that it's because you know which place you have in the relationship, what to expect in another way. And you can also make your own rules for the relationship, but then it feels like you're not just stepping on a train and then the relationship go off and you don't have anything to say about it or feel about it or complaints. You just do as the rule says, because that's how it was when I have had a lot of heterosexual relationships also, and that's always the case, that someone expects it to be a certain way and then you don't fit in that. So it's quite new for me to not have a hetero relationship too, because it's hard to find people who is not hetero. Very hard, I think, but it's good Tinder is.
Susanna is now feeling a lot better with themselves and in relationships.
I feel more free and I feel more confident with myself and to be in a relationship, and I also feel safe and I can work on not have these trauma responses that I always had before in a relationship. Even if I have those emotions too, I can work on them in another way, and I can also address the issue to the partner or the ones I get to know, because I also try to do everything very slow nowadays, so you know who the person is before you address what kind of relationship it is.
There is something else that have also helped them getting to this point.
Something important for me, that I also work with my inner child, and I also did a lot of reparenting, which means I gave the things I didn't get from my parents to myself in order to feel safe and loved and could be the one I wanted to be, even if it's not perfect according to their view. And yes, I also wrote a poetry collection about it, about my experience as an adoptee, because it's, for many people I know who is adoptees, it has been hard. They have a lot of psychological issues, and also me, I have had it since I was young, and I wrote about it, and those poems are really, it's my pain written down in words. I am very happy for that.
Lastly, if you were also adopted, Susanna has some words of encouragement and advice to you.
I want to tell them that if you start to not only take this typical narrative that you were lucky you were adopted, you should be grateful. That's the typical narrative. If you feel bad at, or you have felt bad in your life, maybe start to go back to why and where these feelings comes from the beginning. And if you connect it to the adoption and being adopted, especially if you're transracial adopted, then you can have a lot of answers to your questions, and also maybe you can start to heal. I think also healing is a choice. Not everyone want to do it, but if you really go there to the hard emotions and go where you maybe didn't want to go. I didn't want to for a long time, but when I did, it really helped.
And one final piece of advice.
And also you have to visit a lot of Instagram pages or YouTubers that also are adopted, and you can find a community. And then you can also see how everything surrounding adopting and the adoptee circumstances, how it affects you, because many things you don't think about because you just have that narrative fed down to you, so you don't even have the questions you might want to ask. So that's my advice.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time!